What I absolutely hate is when people say, I know that. Or they say, yeah, I've heard that before, but it's just a new take on it. Because as soon as I hear that, what it tells me is a closed mind instantly. And I can tell you, being a coach, being in this industry, I've had the pleasure of being around some really high achievers, and they don't say that, right? The winners don't say that. They're always like, what can I learn? What's the lesson? Even if they've heard the same thing a million times. Because here's the gap, right? Knowing and doing. What we're doing is closing it. Come to events like this, you're closing that gap every time. That's the goal. And you've got to recognize when the gap is widening from your results. So we're going to talk about results tonight in the form of when we're executing on our dreams. But if you notice that language pattern yourself, or you catch yourself, like I used to catch myself and go, do I really know this? Or am I just thinking I know it? And there's a way to understand that process, right? So first of all, we look at the results. How are your results? Do they reflect what you think you understand? And that's where I suppose the incongruency is, right? So a lot of people will know, I know how to achieve a goal or set a goal, but they've actually never achieved anything of significance for themselves. But they've been to enough seminars or enough books that they have heard, oh, I've got to write my goals down. I've got to read them 3 times a day. Or I understand a goal is not for the things, it's for the growth. But then in their life, they actually don't have anything they're aiming for. And they're not waking up, creating new habits, routines, or rituals. They're not actually disciplined. They're not doing the things they need to do to make that goal happen. But they're like, I know how goals work. I've heard this before. And so that's the bullshit and the narrative you absolutely have to put a pin in on yourself. All right, we have to catch ourselves in this narrative and stop it instantly, because I hear it a lot. Yeah, I've heard this before. They're still coming to seminars and they're like, I know it, I know this, I know that. It's like, then why isn't your fucking life changing? Why aren't you happier? Why aren't you enjoying what you're doing at a higher level? Why aren't you more fulfilled? Oh, it's because you know it, right? And here's how you know something, when you really know it. You can teach it to someone else so they can explain it to someone else, and you demonstrate by results, right? So there's a reason when I first started going into speak with business owners or coaches that I was going in at a certain level. I'm not teaching them how to get on the stock market, right? How to launch an IPO, which is called an initial public offering, to go and get massive venture capital, because I haven't done that, so I don't teach that. You understand? People do this all the time. You know, it's like being a health coach, but you don't go to the gym, you eat Maccas all the time, you don't really care about your diet. Bit incongruent, isn't it? So ask yourself in your life, where's your congruency at in that moment, like in that sense? And nothing's perfect, right? So when we're going for our dreams, we're going to make mistakes. So if we look at the very first starting point and how I'm framing this, the very first starting point, the reason you're here with that piece of paper, which you've done before, but we're training it in, we're training a way to think, a way to see life, to execute on our dreams, the very first starting point won't be new for you. It'll be something you've heard many, many times. And you'll be like, oh, I heard this word before, right? But are you really understanding how the process works behind making decisions? Most people don't understand decision making. They've heard it, I know I've got to be better at it, but they don't get it. See, when we set up a decision, we create an attractive force. Our thinking changes to a different frequency. So if we're walking around through life, begrudging our life, belittling it, bemoaning, why haven't I achieved anything yet? Why aren't I on track? It's so hard to run a business. That thought process sets up a certain level of thinking and frequency in your body. You attract exactly what you're thinking about, right? What you're entertaining. So a decision sets up a different wavelength. So think about it like this. If you make a decision to go, I'm going to buy that car, and then you buy the car, do you see the car everywhere? Right? That's what the reticular activating system, that's the recency effect, in other words, meaning that you're now focused on that car, you see it everywhere. It was always there, but now you've bought it, that's your world. The decisions do this. So in the mental kingdom, we're making decisions on what we want, but not understanding how we're going to do it. That's what this is all about. You're writing down, I actually don't know how I'm going to get 10 new clients. I have no idea I'm going to get $100,000 in my bank account by the end of next year. I have no idea. That doesn't matter. You make that decision. This is what I'm going to do. Then you start seeing yourself as if you have it. Because when we have decisions, we have direction. And with direction, we build momentum. And momentum builds acceleration. And that's the name of the game. So you come here every month thinking, oh man, it's 2 hours. Oh, my time in 2 hours. Like, oh, I could be Netflix. Ooh, I could be doing something else. But what you're missing, and what most people miss, and maybe it's not you because you're here, but what you're aiming for is acceleration from the decision you made, maybe a month ago, maybe tonight, maybe a year ago. It's the acceleration. It's continually investing in yourself, reading the books, doing the day-to-day work, the grind, whatever you want to call it, the hustle. That builds the acceleration. This is why people think success, for those who get it in 20 years and then, they're the overnight success, Why do their opportunities happen faster? Because over time, the acceleration increases in amplitude, doesn't it? So as you go faster, it's easier to go faster, right? So the inertia is where we're starting to go from. Sometimes this getting off the ground is so hard, so much energy has to come out of you to get going. But that's why the decision's so important. And it sounds so basic, but this is where people F-bomb it all the time, right? They're like, I've made my decision. But have you? Because if you change the decision, you're now backwards. So a decision's a committed action. It's resolute. It's like, I'm going to make this happen no matter what, right? Like no matter what, that's a decision. Not if things are right, if my time is right, my resources are right. You understand? That's what most people do. When I get out of this job or into a new one, then I'll go make my business. But the thing is, that is not how success actually builds over time. You understand? It's the committed decision, but reinforced. Now, here's the thing. We've got decisions, direction, momentum, and acceleration. That's from a decision, right? Repeated over and over and over again every single day. The second thing you have to do, once you've made that decision, this is vital to your success, is change your programming. Changing the paradigm. This is key. This is why you come here. This is why you go to courses and seminars. This is why you learn from as many people as you can, because you are trying and doing everything you can to change the conditioning underneath, the patterns of behavior you operate by. Now, when someone, as I said before, says, I understand what you're talking about, I get it, and I have heard this before, that is all in the conscious part of our mind. Our thinking is there, all right? What separates us from pig and animals. It is not there we are needing to change the patterns. It's in the subconscious mind, right? So we have two things happening in one moment all the time. We have our thinking, so you can change your thoughts at any moment. You can start to think of a cat, a house, a dog, a jar of water. Now, no matter what I said just then, you would have thought of that very quickly. You're just like, why am I talking about a cat, a house, a dog, a jar of water? That doesn't make sense. But that's your thinking. You can change it. But just because you change your thinking doesn't actually mean you change your patterns of behavior, your paradigm. That is where it all has to happen. And it's by someone's results we can understand what they're going to get in the future. So for example, if I go into a sales organization, I know exactly who's going to sell what in the next 12 months. You know, recently I had a salesperson, and same thing. We're working together for a while, and you can tell what the pattern's going to achieve, right? Because no matter what goals were written down, if the paradigm isn't changed, the goals mean shit. They don't mean anything, because it's so easy to start to get to a point you just write down your goal, $50 million, I want to be worth this. And you put something that's big for you, a big dream. It could be to live a certain lifestyle, to be a certain way, to be a certain type of entrepreneur, investor, or philanthropist. That's fantastic as a motivating force, but you got to change the conditioning, and that is where most people don't quite get where that change takes place. How do we do that? How do we actually change our programming, what's being given to us environmentally and over time from people in our environment? How do we actually change that? It is by getting out of that environment. It's by coming to places like this. It's by going away from here, listening to good podcasts, but daily, listening and writing, reading, journaling, doing anything you can to change the narrative so you change the programming. You understand? We have to start thinking better thoughts, but we also must go to our programming, our paradigm. It isn't an easy thing, but that's why the winner circle is small, and it's a sort of a reserved space for people who have gone through the process. Now, the paradigm will have a grip on your results. It's always going to have a grip on your results. You will never outbeat your paradigm. So what is a result? A result is our condition, our circumstance, and our environment. That's how we classify a result. So we look in the bank account, that's a result. We look at the quality of a relationship, that's a result. You look at the scales, that's simply a result. It's not good or bad, it's just a result. But it's in the number, for example, people are trying to make the change. So I want to lose 10 kilos. They go, I must lose 10 kilos. So what do people do to lose 10 kilos? They deploy on whatever strategy they hear about. Weight loss diet, fad diet, whatever it may be. But where don't they make the change? In the paradigm, in the programming. So they might start getting a new focus, a new decision to lose the weight. They might start getting a new direction and go to CryoSpa and start getting, you know, the treatments they need. But then the weight starts to drop. What they haven't done is change the programming, the relationship to food, for example. Like, what was actually the reason they had the weight to begin with? Where did the beliefs come around their weight? Was it inherited from family? Did somebody keep calling them a name when they're a kid? And they don't even know this anymore, it's just programmed, you see? Or is it getting fed to them from things they read, right? And so in that moment, we are going from changing the narrative, to changing the programming, to changing the paradigm, and there's a fight that ensues. Your old self wants to cling on. It's safe, it's comfortable, but it sucks, right? So the fight, it's there, baby, all day long. It's like, I don't want to change, it's comfortable, but I don't like it. And that's what the comfort zone is, right? But we know we want something different. So we have to keep this process going of turning up, showing up, and consistently doing our very best to change the paradigm, the programming. And what happens is you start to notice results change. So you might drop a kilo, right? That's a reflection of something changing inside you. But you have to start to celebrate that, right? You really got to own it and go, that's an amazing accomplishment. Because it's not when you drop the 10 kilos or it's not when you hit the $100,000 that you celebrate. Because I don't believe you'll actually get there without understanding how to celebrate and be grateful for those wins along the way all the time. I mean, like every day. For like even showing up here, like it's a freaking win. Like I know you had other things you could be doing tonight. You got family, you got all sorts of stuff going on. But you came for you, that's a win, right? You got 100 on your score, your test recently. Give me a round of applause. Like 100%. Who gets 100% on anything, man? Like that's amazing, you know? I would get 100% on a test I make up for myself, you know? Like I'd probably get 99. So we know that we're looking at making a decision. It gives us direction, builds momentum and acceleration. We know this. Then we look at changing our programming, the paradigm that has a grip on us, right? It's our subconscious pattern of behavior. Neurologically, we're wired to do certain things. We have to change that. There's always a little fight that ensues. We have to beat that fight to win. The third thing then, right, if we look at going through the next thing, this is probably, I think, the funnest part. Keep doing it wrong. Okay? Full permission. Keep fucking it up. Keep doing it wrong. Very important you understand this. Do it wrong. Now, what you focus on, you get, right? Like what we focus on compounds, it magnifies and expands. So I'm not saying that focusing on doing it wrong is what we're talking about when I say keep doing it wrong. There is a distinction with a difference here. So if you hear, fail fast, fail often, fail forward, most people start focusing on failure. That's a terrible idea, right? Focusing on making mistakes, do not do this, right? Terrible idea. But what we've got to understand that in the process of achievement, in moving to the next level to change the programming, you are going to screw it up a lot. You have to. It's the deal. There is no other way to do it. So an example is in the world of professional dancing. You do not start off a professional. Shock horror. You're trained to dance, right? You were trained to become an athlete. Some are more predisposed to that, which is more about purpose than anything, but everybody could make it to a certain level much higher than when they first start out, right? Now, here's the thing. You walk into a dance studio your first day, you're a Gumby, right? My coach said, you're a donkey. And I'm like, yep, sure am. But over time, over the first year, you maybe learn to coordinate your feet just a little bit. Your balance is good. Your timing will be terrible. But over a year, you might learn to just get a little bit better. You will not be world-class by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't matter if you train every single day for 5 hours a day. You'll be okay, but you will not be anywhere near world-class. And then if you continue with this for a long time, you'll go from social dancing to hobbyist. Then you might go into the amateur league, right? This could be 5, 6 years in the making. To get professional, it'll be at least 10 years of your life, all the time obsessively doing it. But unfortunately, most people want that end result straight off the bat. Like, I won't do it. I will not set my goal till I know I can be that good or that level. And until I can actually prove it to myself in the form of results, I won't even start. You tell me what business you go into where you get a guarantee you'll make a certain amount of money and then you'll begin. It just doesn't happen. Now, you know this logically, but your paradigm is trapping you, right? So what we do is we go, all right, I need to keep doing it wrong on this process, because if I'm going to step out beyond my comfort zone, I don't actually know what the path in front of me is going to even remotely look like, because I'm actually building the path, right? I build it brick by brick. This would be one brick tonight. The course you listen to tomorrow, the podcast tomorrow, is another little brick. And along that way, that's building out of your comfort zone, right? So as you're doing it wrong and you're failing and you're making mistakes, your internal dialogue has to be seeing it in a different light. It has to reflect that it's not you, it's just a lesson. It's nature's way of course correcting you if you see it that way. But most people internalize a mistake and say, I'm shit, rather than saying, well, that was shit, and laughing about it. You know, like it's much healthier if you're making mistakes in dancing to laugh at how obscenely bad it was and go, oh man, I never want to look like that again, rather than saying, I'm so shit because I can't do it. You see the difference in the narrative. One is going to feed an existing paradigm, make it stronger and trap you. One is going to change the existing paradigm over time. And so as you're moving forward, you're not focusing on doing it wrong, you just realize it's part of the deal. Walking into your new business or your new venture or your new goal, you're realizing that you're starting off as a socialist, socialist, right? Social level to a hobbyist. You're moving to amateur professional through the grit, the determination, perseverance you need as you go through it. Constant discipline, right? Like doing the work, but realizing that you have to make mistakes to grow. It is only in mistakes that you actually grow. The wins you can learn a little bit from. You learn more from the wins of other people, right? If you study their life and go, do this. But it's the wins that reward you a little bit. And then you go, what's next? Further growth, right? This is the constant way we move. So therefore, the deal is, again, make more mistakes. Do it wrong. Iterate. Change the course. Is this making sense? Right? It's so important you hear this because you will get depressed and down on yourself if you think, oh man, I've done so many wrong things this week. I've done so many mistakes. And not realizing that's what's building your fortitude, your character, your perseverance, right? That's actually strengthening you only if you see it that way, right? And that's that narrative inside of you that started all of this. So as you're moving forward, anything you write down tonight, anything you're reinforcing, that's a decision that you're just recommitting or committing to something new. A decision will build that direction, it'll build the momentum, and it'll build further acceleration. Now, as time goes on, you'll go faster. Things will happen quicker. You'll make less mistakes. And then you keep doing it wrong, right? It's like, oh, that sales campaign didn't work at all. I spent a lot of money buying this course. I didn't go through it. I went through with one of it, right? Anyone done that before? Yep. I read half a book. I read a chapter. I went to one course. I put a seminar on. No one came, right? That's doing it wrong. You're not aiming to do this all the time. What are you trying to do? Learn from it to iterate. You understand? Very, very, very important. Because you, as we said, when doing it wrong or making mistakes, your goal is not to keep making mistakes. That would just be stupid, right? It's to learn from the mistakes and not beat yourself up for it, that internal dialogue, right? So as you're going forward tonight, realize that coming here, doesn't matter the size, right? You can go to a crowd of 5,000 people. Like yesterday was an event with 3,000 people in the room. It doesn't matter if there's 3 people in the room. What matters is what you commit to and what you decide to do, right? And it's turning up. Is that fair enough? Okay, so tonight, as you're going through this process, writing everything down, what we'll do is put something on that really challenges you. I mean, super challenge yourself. You know, don't mess around with small goals. Like, I love to be around, and I'm sure you do, love to be around people who are chasing after some big things. Would you agree? Okay, so I'm chasing after some big goals. You know, I've got a company in Sweden. We want 1 million users in our business, right? We have no idea how we're going to do that at all, not even a clue. And we know about goal achievement, right? We think we do anyway. We're like, maybe this will work. We've got no clue. That must be a good goal then, right? So we want 1 million users there. I want to build an international business, you know, helping improve the quality of lives of others. Well, there's 2 people in the room, 3,000, 10,000. If I get on TV, if I don't, if I write a best-selling book, I don't really care. If someone reads one blog of mine, that's great. If 100 people or 100,000 read it, that's fantastic, whatever. The point is that I'm hooked into something big. I'm going after it, right? Every day. I share my journey online. I'm sharing it more and more. Follow it along, right? See what I do. See what I screw up, right? So like that's important because I am making so many mistakes. I'm doing it so wrong a lot of time. I wish I knew this 3 years ago, but I realized that dialogue isn't going to help me. So I don't say that. I go, I know everything I know right now because I need to know it. And what I know in 3 years is what I need to know in 3 years, but not today. Do you understand? So going forward, honor yourself, give yourself grace, thank yourself, and be grateful that you're even like in the presence of all these awesome people. Like being able to share these ideas, the fact you can even write down, like there must be some amazing, crazy things happening in your country, right? Like, look how blessed we are, right? And we're worried about like, oh, my latte is like too cold. Like, seriously? Fuck, that's your level of problem? And then you're beating yourself up on like not being able to achieve a goal? Come on, like get perspective, right? So we've got great opportunity. We're in an amazing place. You've got a wonderful room. Feel something out there that scares you, that you have no idea how you're going to go for it. And then we're going to share that tonight as a group. And we're going to start to figure out how to be accountable because there's one takeaway from this that's super important after you go through that 3 framework process. Accountability is the missing link. And you'll hear every speaker say the number one thing, right? The thing you must do, and everyone's number one is different. But there is a unanimous agreement on accountability. The people who succeed and really win, the reason they have coaches is accountability. You get to a certain level in dancing, you can feel what's wrong. You can start to course correct. Why do we still have coaches? Why would Usain Bolt have a coach? Right? Like, no one can run faster than him, but he has a coach. Why? And you think, well, do you learn new strategies? Sometimes. It is accountability. Like, he says he hates training. He has a documentary. Check it out. He's like, I hate training. Every day I know I'm going to die. Right? That's easy. So you think you have to be motivated and pumped to go out there and crush it? Bullshit. You need to love what you're doing because the pain is crazy bad. Right? Like making prospecting calls. I don't know anyone who's like, I love prospecting. Like, really? Like, really? Okay, maybe you might for a little bit, but I don't really believe that. But it becomes a hardwired conditioned pattern in high performers in business sometimes that they cold call or they prospect all the time because it's a pattern of behavior now. They can hate it and still do really well at it because they've trained it. Does that make sense? So Usain Bolt hates training, but he turns up every day and does it anyway, doesn't he? Right? So it's great to love what you do, but please realize in the actual pursuit and work, love may not come into the actual equation when you step out to act. It's insanely painful to become a good dancer. But then when you're on stage in front of everyone, all the work you've done behind closed doors for years is finally showing up. And when no one was believing in you or going, you're crazy to do that. How are you going to make money from that? Nobody gets paid to dance, right? No one can do that. And you spend 10 years and invest all your money and time doing it, and then all of a sudden you're showing up on stage, it's like, oh, you're gifted. Oh, you must have been dancing since you're 7. That's easier for you, right? Like, look at you. You got shiny hair and big teeth. Of course you're going to be a good dancer, right? You're on the world stage now. You're dancing around. Things are much easier to implement and learn, and you're having a great time, but it's still really hard work to dance. It actually becomes harder, and Jim Rohn says this fantastically, right? Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. That's a fantastic slogan to tattoo on yourself, right? Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better, because it gets harder. So if you think as you get more success, if you really believe that when you're making, let's say you want to make millions of dollars, right? If that's your goal for whatever reason, you really think it gets easier? Are you joking? Like that is a narrative you're kidding yourself with. It gets harder, you just get better. Right? And if you don't get better, you get depressed, despondent, and you spiral out of control, and your business will fail, and you'll sabotage it because you don't know how to handle it. Right? That's what happens. Makes sense, right? So as you're going forward, connecting into community, who you are around is vital for the achievement of what you're going after because it's the accountability. That is the missing link. It really is. That's why we have coaches. That's why if we don't have a coach, we have a mastermind. If we don't have a mastermind, we're connecting to a book, so an author who's dead, they're my mental coach now, right? Every day I'm going to read this guy, right? That's a coach. That's a form of mentorship. I'm going to go out and find a group. I'm going to create my own meetup group. Whatever it is, that's accountability. Like I say my goals to you, like I want to create an international organization of changing people's lives. I want to do that. The scale of it, I'm not saying I'm going to change millions of people's lives. I don't really know if anyone can set a goal like that and make it happen. I'm not sure. But that doesn't matter. What matters is what I'm doing, right? The work. I want to do it. I want you to, you're part of this, by the way. So yeah. And as I'm moving forward, that is the excitement. It's not when I actually get there, and that's the same for you. But you get better as you go along. And it gets easier in the sense of what you can implement because you have learned from all of the mistakes and doing it wrong for so long. It just becomes this menu of like, oh, I've been here before. I know what to do now. Quick, I'm going to deploy that strategy. And it becomes easier to get out of the mud. Does this make sense? All right, so going forward today, what you're going to do, set something big, something that scares you, excites you, and then we're going to talk to each other and mastermind out the challenges as we do. And even though you've been through the process before, don't start getting complacent with the fact you know it. Right? What do we say at the beginning? You don't know it until you've done it, right? I know now how to become a professional dancer. I had no idea for the first 12 years how to do it. It was only until we got to a certain level, then I was like, now I can tell people how to do it. Do you understand? So once you hit that goal, you'll be able to teach other people too. Does that make sense? Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. Let's put something on this that scares us, excites us, and brings awesome joy into our life. All right.
I love it.
Yeah, you just need to go back and forth.
I found that with, I spent 3 years in Iceland, so I picked up Icelandic, and it's the same. I don't use it very much now, so it's a little bit tricky and a bit more effort, but if I go back, it just comes straight back.
Tony goes, he does a day and a half, and then he goes,
What you got for dinner?